So 2 weeks ago I made a video detailing the potential of a Nintendo cinematic universe, and it did really well, which means either I made a really good thumbnail, people really liked the idea of a Nintendo cinematic universe, or people really just wanted to click on it to tell me that Sonic isn't really a Nintendo character. Whoops. Maybe the best term really would be the Super Smash Bros. Cinematic Universe. So much for the MCU versus the NCU, the SSBCU is coming through now. What a mouthful that one is. If you haven't seen the last video, I highly recommend giving it a watch first, because you never know, maybe it'll raise your spirits to hear an optimist's opinion on the future of video games in the film industry. The card for it should be up right about now. Now obviously, this is all speculation, and more of a long-winded prediction of what could happen following the basis of video game movies getting a lot more attention due to relatively more success. So while last time we simply nudged the full potential Nintendo could explore on the big screen, today we're going to take a much deeper dive, sticking with the Smash Bros banner now and looking at each Smash IP and discussing just how it could be done nicely on the big screen. Ready to begin? Alright then. First things first, obviously, we've already established Pikachu and Sonic. The Sonic the Hedgehog movie is still very much in the air. It could be good if it gets a good redesign, or it could be bad because it's still a bad story. It's probably going to be bad, but it will also get a lot of money, and considering the company around it being quite the generic we want money so we're going to ruin the IP to make it, seems like it's probably more likely that we will be seeing more Sonic movies one way or another, even if they're not really going to get better. While I would at least like some kind of Sonic X style story, or best case scenario, the visual design of the Sonic Unleashed cutscenes, we'll at the very least possibly see Tails and Knuckles introduced to the later sequels, or even Shadow 2. In Smash context, it wouldn't be connected to a giant Smash world. I don't think any of the games really will at first. More than anything, I predict separate standalone film and franchises that then, once building on their success, do start to collide together. Smash is merely a concept right now and will grow depending on reactions to certain franchises. So moving on, Pokemon. Detective Pikachu is out, and though I haven't seen it yet, the reviews are in. People seem to really like it. It's got an 83% by the audience and 65% by critics on Rotten Tomato. The main gripe being that it didn't really explore its concept as much as it could have, holding back on the more Pokemon side of the movie. Which to me sounds like the perfect formula for a sequel to explore. In fact, a simple Google search suggests it's already in pre-production, even though it's unannounced. And on top of that, it will supposedly be followed by more live-action Pokemon movies. Not necessarily Detective Pikachu this time, meaning the world of Pokemon is soon to be explored, what with new regions, stories, and Pokemon to see, most likely. To me, this is literally the best-case scenario. Detective Pikachu is a massive success, as expected, and it's in the works to being a fully fledged film franchise. What can go from here? Well, simply enough, expansion. Give new Pokemon, give us new stories, and give us new lands. Eventually, you'll have a fully capable world that the audience is comfortable with already, and then they will be able to expand it into an even bigger world with the prevalence of a single portal. Wouldn't it be great if such a concept was already explored in the Pokemon games? Sounds like a smooth transition into something much bigger than itself. Also, Mario. He's obviously getting his own film. We discussed it last time and covered most of what we know. He's getting his own animation. It's done by Illumination Entertainment, and this is just textbooks franchise in the making to me. The companies are set up for success, combining the fan base of the child-friendly animation studio with the artistic flair of Shigeru Miyamoto actually producing it. Not to mention, both Mario as an idea and Illumination Entertainment are known for their franchise milking. Plus, it has full potential to be good rather than just bad because it's that animation studio. And like Pikachu, it will likely grow into a franchise with a growing world. Maybe there'll be sequels that introduce Waluigi, Wario, and Daisy. Maybe they'll add one-off enemies in super serious stories. Or maybe they'll go on to more of the spin-off titles like Paper Mario, Mario Kart, Mario and Luigi, or just Luigi's Mansion. And eventually, with parallel successes from other franchises, Mario will be the very first to dive into a deep dark portal elsewhere. So that is the very basics of what is already being grounded, but let's get back to the other Smash Bros. Characters that have yet to make any move on screen. Of the classic 12 from the original Super Smash Bros. For the Nintendo 64, Link is the next best guess, being the third piece in the Smash Bros. / Nintendo iconic icon. And options for a Zelda movie are surprisingly limitless. And from the perspective of a company, with the success of a Mario franchise and a Pokemon film franchise, this would be the next most likely candidate. and the movies have entire worlds to choose to explore. Each game is set in an entirely different world and atmosphere, and just looking at fan trailers tells you enough of what could be done. For example, a guy named Matt Vince made this incredible concept trailer of the lands of Hyrule dipped into the aesthetic of Studio Ghibli films to get an emotional ride similar to the design of Breath of the Wild, Ocarina of Time, or even the classic NES game. And while it's very possible that an iconic figurehead of anime may pick up the IP, there's always a chance that Nintendo will just jump into the bandwagon themselves with a more simplistic anime style. They've literally already animated it together during the Smash reveal of Palutena and Dark Pit with this gorgeous one-on-one fight scene against Pit from Kid Icarus. Or we could even flip over to the darker worlds of the Zelda franchise, because we've got this fantastic trailer from the team of EmberLab giving us a much more grim look into the world of Majora's Mask, or perhaps similarly, Twilight Princess. Or who knows, maybe they'll just say screw it and make a 2D animation on the design of Wind Waker and Link Between Worlds. With so many games and so many styles, the opportunities for a Zelda movie are practically boundless, and only requires a dedicated team to make it good. And with the concept of Zelda being all about alternative realities, even though it's across time, it could be quite fitting for when the stories want to combine and transcend into the bigger Smash Bros. World. Coming back to the classic 12, we've now covered 7 possible candidates, and things get a tad more indecisive. Kirby is iconic and pretty big when it comes to passionate fan bases, but translating him onto the big screen could be a problem, especially if it wanted to go anywhere near realism. Chances are, it just won't. Simple cartoony animation is a certain future for the little guy, however their popularity may be a tad shaky considering he's not gigantic. The same could be said for Ness and Captain Falcon. They have dedicated fans where they have them, but sending them out to the major public could come with issues. A kid-friendly version of Fast and Furious with Captain Falcon may just not hit a solid audience demographic. Though at least Ness and the Mother series has a little more chance with the idea of kids using magic against an evil world. I could even see this fitting in somewhat to a style of Blue Sky Studios style, like the Peanuts movie. I could see it being a nice inspirational film showing off a child's imagination. Though it is quite dark as well, so it would be quite a jarring connection. But perhaps if we were to place the Smash Bros. Cinematic universe into phases like this one image that's been going around, then this one would have to be out of the first phase to say the least. Now, Fox and Samus have some more room to stretch their legs, even though Fox doesn't have legs. Spacey action films are in right now, and make a perfect mirror to the MCU and Guardians of the Galaxy, with Star Fox having a similar sense of a team of misfits banded together, though mostly just because they're different animals, and Samus being the serious assassin bounty hunter on the side. Animation-wise, both have handled quite nicely with their more realistic design. Looking at Samus and Mother Brain in the opening cutscene of Metroid Other M seriously gives me good hopes for a dramatically tense, realistic space hunter movie, bringing back an atmosphere similar to Alien, which would be an ironic full circle considering Ridley the monster is literally named after Ripley from Alien, and her character mirrors much of what shapes Samus. This would also give room for a serious, more adult audience introduction. I'm not exactly expecting too much horror, but a more teen audience could be a good potential. And Star Fox, yeah, a more energetic, fun version of that. Space travels with a ragtag group. Perhaps it could be an origin story of how they banded together, or just an action movie of them during their prime. Taking in all of these IPs together and seeing how it is just the basis of Smash Bros, if there was ever a Phase 1 and 2 and 3 structure, the end of Phase 1 would most likely be here. And from now on we consider what could fit into a more Phase 2 category, if not just sequels from the already mentioned games. So, Melee! Melee introduces us to the world of Ice Climbers, Game & Watch, and Fire Emblem. But there's not a ton of room here, believe it or not. A retro video game movie could be interesting to see reimagined, though finding the audience would be the hardest part. To do a retro movie properly well, one would need a retro game that everybody knows to really rock on that nostalgia trip. Like a trilogy of Tetris movies that is actually being made. Good lord. Perhaps if it does really well, then Ice Climbers and Game & Watch could be an option. But it's really unlikely. As for Fire Emblem, maybe. Medieval fantasy with magic and relationships for a kid audience could be pretty good, though it may need an extra bump to get it somewhere far. Again, a later phase may be best here. So, moving on, Super Smash Bros. Brawl, and despite the roster jump, there's still only 5 major introductions. First one is Pit, representing the Kid Icarus franchise, again coming with its own challenges, which will be quite a common theme continuing on, and that's just from the fact that it's just not crazy popular. But that doesn't necessarily mean it's doomed. After all, just the concept of the world of Kid Icarus stands out from the rest of the Smash IP. Tackling a theme of angels, gods, and devils is interesting on its own and is kind of like the Thor to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Though perhaps due to its underdog stature, it could end up similar to the less popular comics from Marvel and DC, things like the Defenders or the Eternals. And as for style, the games are very formally anime, so much of that 2D animation could work quite nicely here too. Though you never know, maybe something more realistic would work. I'm sure everyone would love to see a realistic eye, nose, and mustache flying around. Next notable IP is Solid Snake from Metal Gear. Of all things that certainly aren't Nintendo, this would very certainly be it. And especially with the franchise being ripped from Hideo Kojima, it's in even less good hands than one could imagine. Sounds like the perfect formula to attempt a rushed movie in the likes of Sonic, if ever at all. Due to its intense nature, it'll surely be marked for an older audience, but may also end up as a standard, uninteresting military thriller. There's room for something good, but considering the crazy lore and the people now in charge of it, I'm less than optimistic. Sonic's now officially part of Smash, though he's already been riddled with discussion. So that leaves us with two more, Rob and Olimar. Rob's chances of his own film is as close to zero as imaginable. He can be a visual Easter egg in other films, or maybe he'll have his fate locked away like Hawkeye, never getting his own film, but beyond that, there's really nothing. But Olimar has a chance. Popularity is not exactly on his side. He has passionate fans backing him up. Yeah, say hi guys. But he's not world renowned. But at the same time, he is Shigeru Miyamoto's baby child. Forget his work on Mario right now, he's already collaborated with an animation studio to produce 3 Pikmin short movies. And these were pretty good, giving us insight of how a Pikmin movie could be done, focusing on the individual personalities of the Pikmin and potentially creating a genuinely moving story of emotion, family, and survival against all of the odds. The motivation behind a future Pikmin movie is rock solid. Its only hurdle would be making it interesting for the masses. But I have faith in this one. I almost feel like the world of Pikmin works better in cinemas than as a video game. The gameplay of Pikmin requires an acquired taste for some people, but watching Pikmin messing around with all different personalities, colors, and weird giant environments, well, in a way, I kind of think anyone can consume that kind of thing comfortably. And accidentally finding an artifact that takes Olimar into the connected world of Smash? Sounds easy enough to write, too. So let's move on to Super Smash Bros. For Wii U and 3DS. New IPs include Animal Crossing, Megaman, Punch-Out, Duck Hunt, Wii Fit, Xenoblade, Pac-Man, and Mies. I wasn't aware there was so much new stuff, good lord. Many of these have minimal odds for something standalone. Some of these will most likely only be background characters, if appearing at all, only in Smash movies or something. These include Duck Hunt, Wii Fit, and the Mies. Unless a retro game gets a sequel with Duck Hunt and Game & Watch combining or something. Others, though, have a bit more of a chance. Mega Man, everyone's favourite Nintendo IP, can have a very easy time story-wise, with their fairly simple story concept, being an origin adventure of growing in power to overthrow Dr. Wily. And as long as it stays away from realism, it's in a pretty good place. Animal Crossing is more debatable. A realistic Animal Crossing would be quite disturbing. Chibi designs and furry neighbours? Yeah, would not recommend, but something more cartoony may pass. The story plot would be the biggest issue. There is an Animal Crossing anime, from what I can tell, being about a human girl discovering the world of Animal Crossing, so maybe something along that lines could re-emerge, or a town is destroyed and a villager has to bring it back? Otherwise, I'm very unsure. Punch-Out, similar to Mega Man, can have a very easy time as a script, being a bog-standard story plot of winning through the boxing ranks, with a cartoony flair of over-the-top odds and rivals. Give us some backstory with Doc and we're pretty much golden. So that leaves Xenoblade Chronicles, which can go multiple ways. The games are already very story-based, with a lot packed in one, meaning some stories may be simplified too far in a film, or perhaps they would lose their previous weight. This could perhaps mean that they may be forced to make some kind of trilogy instead, or give us an original, less impactful story. Or maybe they'd zoom into something smaller, following a side quest within the game, or taking from Xenoblade Chronicles X and focusing on rebuilding the new Los Angeles region. There's a lot of room, with 2D, 3D, and even live action working quite well with the style, though it would entirely depend on how to structure the series. Though in general, It's pretty anime. And Pac-Man already sounds like the sequel to the Tetris trilogy films, honestly, and as mentioned before, it could be successful as a retro film, and it is pretty popular, but unlikely. DLC then gave us Street Fighter, Final Fantasy, and Bayonetta, all of which I see very minimal odds for a successful movie franchise. Street Fighter already has a movie from 1994, getting 11 on Rotten Tomato. Maybe someone could do it well, but the format seems very unlikely. Similarly, Final Fantasy is a mess. Its longevity and complex nature makes it a similar disaster in the making. It also has a movie at 45%, and multiple movies too. And if they made like a Kingdom Hearts one, no, it would just get even worse. And then Bayonetta. Its overtly sexual nature would be cause for controversy and would only be maximized in front of a bigger audience. And I don't know how the world would react. This is an empowered woman flaunting her sexual advantage, but she's also fiction, drawing the gaze of men. Maybe the debate would make it grab more attention, but perhaps it's not something that Smash wants to delve into too much. You never know, it's still a strong female protagonist, which films are very happy to have these days, but either way, it's very much in the air. So now our final stop, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, giving us Spittoon and Castlevania. Everything else has been expansions of older franchises, similar to how I imagine the movies would actually go with their sequels. So Spittoon! This one seems shaky. Realism is a no. Animation seems to be the only way to go, and it could be interesting to see the different colors, but the action may be hard to follow or too esoteric for some audience members. It works great as a frantic game, but it may be hard to translate into cinemas. Guess it would just need a good director. As for Castlevania, it already exists. There's the Netflix series that does a pretty good job for itself. It's a simple 2D animation, and the format works quite nicely for a serious vampirical drama. So in general, the possibilities for a Smash Bros. Cinematic universe seems very much in the realm of possible. I've been imagining the story being that Smash is a world that opens up to everyone's individual universe to band them together, and all to make them face a single evil together. It seems fairly simple enough that it would work for this family-friendly franchise, though many have also made multiple connections between a Smash movie and the Avengers, what with Mario talking about the Super Smash Bros. Initiative and Galen being the Smash equivalent of Thanos, which was interesting to see compared, to say the least. And with video game films becoming more and more prevalent, I can see a good chunk of these IPs eventually getting some filmic fan service. It may all just be fantasy right now, but the more attention the idea gets, the more money that follows it, and the more likely it is to become a reality. But that's just another bodacious opinion of a super video game fanboy optimistically hoping for some real head-turning futures in the film industry. And I haven't even delved too deeply into this. There's so much more we could speculate over, so I'll leave all that down to you. What do you expect out of the other Pokemon live-action movies? Which Zelda style should they follow through with? How are all these franchises connected to Smash? And how do you see each IP being handled? Does the story of Smash follow the story of Smash, or does it do its own separate thing, completely different to the games? Who knows? This video was started purely through how much interest people showed in the comments of my last one, so maybe if people come up with particularly intriguing ideas this time, I'll make another one of these going even more deeper into the concept. Otherwise, I'll see you again on Friday, because for now, I'll be ending it off here. My name's been Daz, you didn't really care, and I'll see you in a bit.